to go about employment, apart from the regular 9 to 5? What else can people do?
Okay.
Because of so many uncertainty. COVID-19 is a lesson learned for quite a number of people. So we want to know what are those things that we can do. But first of all, let us bow our heads and just pray tonight, and just ask God, just invite Him, and just acknowledge the Lord. He said, in all our ways we should acknowledge Him, and He will direct our path. Lord, tonight we acknowledge your presence. We acknowledge your sweet Holy Spirit, our comforter, our paraclete, our teacher, the one who guides, the one who leads us into all truth. We ask tonight that you lead our discussion, you guide our narration, you help us even to understand some of the things that we need to do. We ask for the spirit of wisdom and revelation and understanding in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
So for the next 30 minutes, let's want to welcome John Watkins as he leads us in this discussion. You're welcome.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thanks, Dr. O, for inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak and talk to you guys briefly about entrepreneurship as an alternative to a 9 to 5 employment. So basically, what I would like to share with the audience tonight is, why I decided to get involved in entrepreneurship. Because the bottom line is, I'll just say this up front, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. So I don't want folks to think that, you could just get into entrepreneurship and things are going to go great. I work extremely hard, but I'm very disciplined. And I definitely had to put a lot of time in to get where I am today. So with that said, I just want to tell you guys, start out with why I got involved. And then hopefully, as I share my story, it might be inspiring to you, or you might have some questions that you might want to ask afterwards. So I have 30 years in real estate and 25 years in financial services. So I've been doing the two of those for the past 25 and, like I said, 30 years. So what got me involved in entrepreneurship is my junior year in college. I went to Virginia State University, and I got a bachelor's of science degree in business administration. But during my sophomore year in college, I was taking a business law course. And while we was taking that business law course, the professor who was teaching the class, I'll tell you a little bit about his background, but while I was taking this business law course, we started talking about real estate. And when we started talking about real estate, Mr. Brown, who was the professor, he shared a little bit about himself. Not only was he a college professor, but he also was a lawyer, and he owned his own real estate brokerage. And, back then I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a male role model, nobody kind of like look up to in terms of what I might want to do. So when Mr. Brown mentioned, that he was a real estate broker, he was an attorney, as well as a professor, and he was African-American, it got me excited. So I think, back then, my passion and wanting to get involved in real estate actually came from that experience while I was in college. So, because of Mr. Brown, it really got me, it planted that seed in my mind that I wanted to get into real estate. So while I was still in college, sometime I would just visit his office and stuff in Petersburg and see how things were going. And I just said, when I graduate from college, I definitely want to get into real estate. So when I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I did get into real estate back in 1990. So basically from 1990 up until about 2003, I pretty much just sold a lot of real estate to, and primarily my market was first-time home buyers. And I was selling properties to a lot of single women with children. And, I was very successful at just selling. But a lot of the women that I was selling these properties to, as I mentioned earlier, they were single women, and they were also asking me a lot of questions about, not only their house, but they was asking me a lot of questions about finances. So early on, I was referring a lot of that business to a lot of folks. but something just told me to get all of my licenses in financial services. So what I decided to do, is I got my life and health insurance license, I got my property and casualty license, I got my Series 6, 63, and 26 license to do annuities and security investments. So what I started doing, not only was I selling houses to a lot of folks, but then I was also helping them to manage their portfolio. And when I first got started back in the early, in 1990, I was dealing with a lot of young folks at the time. So a lot of these single women were between in their early 20s, maybe early 30s. And on average, most of them had 2 children. So they didn't have a lot of disposable income to work with at the time. So if they had maybe about $100, I would take maybe about 25 of that, and I would do like $250,000 term policy for them, which was only about $25. Then I would take another $25 and put into a money market account for emergency funds in case, they lose their job or whatever. Hopefully they can accumulate enough cash where, they can pay some bills in case something happens, if they get sick, laid off, so on and so forth. And then I would take the other $50. I would normally do like an education IRA for both children. So I started doing that, and it kind of gave me the situation where I was helping people with a holistic approach, because it's one thing to buy a house, but at the same time, I believe in showing people how to become debt free, because at the end of the day, the less debt you have, the more you can free your mind to do some of the things that you want to do. So that's pretty much how I got started. And then around 2003, I went to a man conference. It's called a manpower conference, and this Bishop T.D. Jakes. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bishop T.D. Jakes, but I went to one of his manpower conferences in Atlanta, Georgia, it was either late 2002 or early 2003. And while I was there, I got they had some really great speakers and all of that good stuff. And then on my way home, I just heard this voice, and this voice said, buy some real estate. And when I heard that voice, I was like, wow, that's all I needed to hear. So after I left that manpower conference in early 2000s, I immediately came back home, and I took a home equity line of credit on my primary residence at the time. I took out $40,000 worth of equity, and I used that as a down payment to buy 7 investment properties. So when I bought those 7 investment properties, basically what that helped me do is it pretty much almost doubled my income overnight, because all of those properties that I purchased, they became cash flow properties. And then right around the time that I purchased them, that's when the real estate market really started to boom. So it put me in a position where the equity on a lot of those properties that I purchased, they pretty much almost doubled overnight. So it really put me in a position where
I'm sorry, can you please unmute the...
situation where not only can you help yourself personally, but if you decide that you want to venture into entrepreneurship, you could use those licenses, and you can also have a great career for yourself. You don't have to work for anybody. So it's not one of those type of things where you just have to stop what you're doing and then, just go ahead on and start getting these licenses and selling real estate or financial services. No, you can kind of really take your time and learn a lot of the things that I learned. But the good thing about a lot of the things that I learned, I applied a lot of those concepts to kind of help myself. Because when you learn great information, the first thing you want to do is you want to be able to help yourself. So let me just be specific about that. All of the properties that I purchased, I sold them myself, because I'm a licensed real estate agent. And I tell a lot of people this, even if you decide that you don't even want to sell real estate, if real estate is something that you want to do, I still suggest the person get their real estate license. I mean, it's only about $250. You can get your real estate license. I mean, most of the people that I've talked to either own a house or they sold a house and they're buying a second house. So I'm going to give you some real life examples. All of the properties that I purchased, I wrote the contracts myself. Therefore, I didn't have to pay someone else to do that. As a result of that, I saved a lot of money. I'll give you an example. The house that I just sold 3 years ago, my primary residence, when I sold that, I saved $12,500 by selling the house to myself. Selling the house myself, I didn't have to pay that commission to another agent. The house that I'm living in now, I sold this house to myself. I got $20,000 commission for selling the house to myself. So the point is, even if you decide that, no, I don't want to be an entrepreneur, if you think that you either want to, get a few properties or whatever the case might be, get your real estate license. Because at the end of the day, it's not very expensive to get. You can save a lot of money. And when you save money, you put more dollars back into your household. Okay. So just by having all of these licenses, it allowed me to do a whole lot of things to save money, not only on the real estate side, but on the financial services side too. So policies that I did for people back in, the early 1990s, as long as those people continue to pay those life insurance policies, as long as the people continue to pay their auto insurance premium, their homeowners insurance premium, I get what you call residual income. So each year I get income because of things that I did, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Am I making any sense? Any questions so far? Or you want me to keep talking, Dr. O?
No questions yet. No questions yet.
Right. So yeah, so the bottom line is, it allowed me to do some great things to help myself, and as a result of helping myself, I've been able to help a lot of people to do what I do. So with that said, I actually have 12 people that I mentor on the real estate side, and I have 35 agents that I mentor on the financial services side. And it's amazing to me because most of the people that I work with, all of them are part-time, and some of them are actually making more money part-time than they make full-time on their job. And a lot of these people want to transition, and a lot of them have really good jobs. A lot of them make six-figure incomes, but for whatever reason, they're really frustrated with the job. They don't like what they do or whatever the case might be. So a lot of them will come to me and say, hey, I want to get into real estate, or I want to get into financial services. And it's a type of situation where you can learn how to do these things part-time. And then when you get good enough to where your income, you're replacing your income, you can start doing it full-time. So, but what I will say is this, you have to really, learn. You have to really get yourself educated on these things. We do have to do continuing education. So even after you get licensed and things, you still have to do continuing education to keep your licenses active. But I get a lot of business because I've been doing it for so long, and I helped a lot of people. So as a result of that, the phone constantly ring. I get an average of 10 to 12 telephone calls each and every week, and it's definitely too much business for me to handle. So I don't care about, how much the other folks are making, because they're helping me. So at the end of the day, as long as they're in position to do what they need to do and they can satisfy the client, then it's fine with me. So I would highly recommend you guys consider entrepreneurship. For me, it was the way to go. I worked for the federal government while I was in college, and it was just a very laid back environment. And I just have so much energy, so much zest, and so much zeal that I could have stayed with the government, but I just wasn't happy there. I need to, be around, people that's going to motivate me, that's very, high energy and want to continuously do things. So therefore, I just decided not to work for the federal government. And then when I went to grad school, I stopped working for a while. I had, enough cash to where I was able to pay for graduate school pretty much with a lot of the money that I accumulated doing, while I was working before I went to grad school. I went to grad school full time in Texas. But one of the things that kept me in the entrepreneurship is that when I was looking for employment, just before I graduated, companies was flying me everywhere. I flew into North Carolina, I flew into Oklahoma, different places for job opportunities. But at the end of the day, I didn't get the job. Now, I would say I didn't get the job because of I don't have the complexion for the protection for the collection. Some of you guys might, but my thing is, I decided that I wasn't going to get bitter. I just decided that I'm going to get better, because at the end of the day, sometimes if you can't get a regular opportunity through employment, a lot of times you can create your own opportunity. And I just happen to use real estate and financial services as a means for me. But, there are a lot of other paths that a person can take. in terms of entrepreneurship. I mean, one of the things that I like about real estate is that with those investment properties, some of those properties that I didn't have a mortgage on, I was able to basically do what you call owner financing. So I financed the properties. I actually sold the properties. We went to settlement and all that good stuff. So instead of the buyer paying the mortgage company, the buyer paid me. So with those owner finance properties, that pretty much cover a lot of my mortgage payment and some of my other daily expenses. So that could definitely be a strategy for you. And also the residual income, once again, from, you know, the policies that I did for folks years ago, I continuously get income from that. So, you know, that takes the stress and strain off of me in terms of knowing that I'm going to get some residual income. So that's another strategy that you might want to look at in terms of doing, because that's the gift. I call it the gift that keeps on giving, you know. So as long as folks pay their premiums and all of that good stuff, you'll continue to get something from that. But, you know, it takes time. None of this stuff happens overnight. There were many years where I struggled. I didn't have the client base that I have now. The good thing about what I do now is, as I mentioned earlier, when I first started, I was dealing with primarily single women with children. They were very young, and they had a lot of debt. And over the years, the debt started to dwindle. The kids are grown, and, you know, they accumulated monies with their 401k. So a lot of them are at or near retirement. So that just allowed me to meet with those people and put together some type of retirement strategy for them. Because the thing is this, you know, a lot of people, they didn't want to look at their 401k statement, especially when COVID first hit, because a lot of folks was taking a lot of big hits. And it take an average of 10 years to get your money back to where where you had it. And some folks just don't have that time. I don't know about you, but I'm close to 60. And, you know, a lot of folks that's in my age range, they don't want to work another 10 years. So, you know, I believe in putting a lot of folks that's at or near retirement in some very safe and secure investments so that they can have a nice retirement and not worry about losing money. I mean, they may not necessarily get all the gains that you would get from the stock market, but at the same time, they won't lose any money. So I think in my particular case, I just been blessed because I've been doing it for so long. And, I helped a lot of people. And that pretty much, put me in a position where the phone continuously rang. And as a result of that, I just turned a lot of that stuff over to the team of people that pretty much, that I partner with. And they able to help me tremendously. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of them, the majority of them, they work a regular job. They have strong income, but it's just not what they want to do. They want to test the waters and all of that good stuff. So, they're looking at real estate and in some cases financial services as an alternative. So if I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again. I know we're in COVID-19. So when COVID first started, business slowed down, I would say probably for about a month. So COVID, things really pretty much shut down here in Maryland around about the second or third week of March. And I had some real estate transactions that fell through because some folks, they lost their job shortly after COVID, and they didn't know exactly when they was going to go back to work. So it was kind of rough for only about a month. But then sometime in April, I was getting calls like you couldn't believe. I mean, I did more life insurance during COVID than I did before COVID. I mean, and the good thing about that is that, I'm able to do that from my computer. So I didn't have to meet with anyone. I was able to do all of the policies and things like that electronically. And then people, they were working from home and all of that good stuff. And, so it just made things really, really good, from a financial services standpoint. So, yeah, I mean, things definitely didn't slow down on the financial services side. And then on the real estate side, I mean, things just after that first month, after that, everything has just been really, really busy. As you guys probably know, we're in the seller's market right now. When there's a seller's market, that just means that there's not a lot of inventory, but you have a ton of buyers out there. And so houses are really selling. And you would think that so many houses wouldn't be selling because you still have a lot of folks that's laid off. But at the same time, you got a lot of folks that's out here buying. And right now, people are paying $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more than the asking price. I put in the contract for a property 2 weeks ago. We put in a bid for $30,000 more than what they were asking, and we still didn't get it. So right now, we're in COVID-19, but this real estate market is hot, and it has its pros and it has its cons. So the pro is that the market is really hot. A lot of people are spending, I would say, more money than what the house is going to be worth probably sometime in February, because this is what's going to happen, I believe, around February or March of next year. Because of COVID, you still have a lot of folks that's not making their mortgage payments, right? And then you have a lot of folks that own investment properties, then they're not making the mortgage payments either. So the mortgage companies, they're allowing folks not to make the mortgage payments, but in January, those past due mortgage payments will become due. So I know some folks that they're saying that I'm just saving the money sitting in my account. But guess what, folks? Life happens. I'm quite sure that that money that they say they're saving, you know, they probably dipped into it. And then when January hit, and when the mortgage company want 5 or 6 months all at one time, they're not going to be able to come up with the money. And as a result of that, you're going to have a lot of people that's going to wind up losing their house. So that's the sad part about it. So, but what's going to happen is then it's going to become a buyer's market. So some of those folks that's paying all of this money to buy their house now in early spring, some of them are going to be upside down, because you're going to have a high foreclosure rate because folks aren't going to be able to pay the back due mortgage payments. And then you're going to start having these properties going up for sale on nice blocks. But at the same time, you know, when properties sell for less than what is owed, you know, that affects the appraisal. So people are going to start being in position where they're going to start getting some of these properties at really bargain basement prices. So I'm believing that that's going to happen only about 6 months from now, not, you know, a year or 2 or 3 years from now. So I think, you know, next year, even if you guys decide that, you know, you want to continuously work and you want to kind of build up an investment portfolio, I think, you know, early next year will be a great time to buy some investment property, or, you know, put your hand in maybe just trying to, you know, maybe do 2 or 3 flips per year. I mean, you could always partner with somebody to kind of help you do that. And I would suggest doing that in Baltimore City. I mean, I know most of you guys are probably in like PG County, DC, Northern Virginia. Those areas are very, very expensive to live. But, you know, Baltimore, you can still get a nice investment property for about 50,000 and put maybe about 30 into it. And you could probably make about 30 or $40,000, you know. So I would just consider that. So, I mean, there are a lot of different alternatives, a lot of things you can try. Only thing I would suggest that you do is, you know, talk to somebody that you know, somebody that you trust. I wouldn't suggest that you spend a whole lot of money on these different programs and things like that, because a lot of that information you could pretty much learn on your own. I mean, obviously things may not necessarily go 100% the way you want them to go, but at the same time, you don't need to spend thousands of dollars. I know folks that spend thousands of dollars on these real estate classes and this and that, you know, these folks that say you can get rich quick, and they don't even have a real estate license. I mean, so you didn't spend $10,000, you didn't spend $10,000, you know, doing this investment program. You haven't made any money, but at the same time, you couldn't even spend $250 to at least get a real estate license. At least with that, you could have had an opportunity to make a few bucks. So I just question some folks' logic when it comes to certain things. And then sometimes, you know, we're always looking, you know, a lot of different places for where that next blessing or what we're going to do. Sometimes you just got to look deep inside yourself. What you're looking for is you probably already have what you already need. You know, sometimes, you know, you don't have to look to the far east or to the far west. Sometimes, you know, your blessing probably is just right in front of you. So
right in front of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one other thing I would say real quick is that you know, when I was flipping a lot of those properties in the early 2000s, I mean, it was very, very easy. And I was also looking to kind of like do some more things. So back then I looked at a lot of franchise opportunities. So I looked at GNC. I drove to Pittsburgh for that. I was looking at a Quiznos restaurant. They was popular in the early 2000s. So I went to New Jersey about that one. But I chose a franchise called Coffee Beanery. They're out of Michigan. So I did go there. And actually, I had my sister-in-law. She was going to be the one that was going to run the Coffee Beanery for me, because she worked for Starbucks as a manager in Manhattan, New York for years. So I decided to purchase a franchise. So I purchased the franchise, but right after I purchased the franchise, about 3 weeks later, the franchise, they was being sued because one of the guys who purchased one of the stores, in Annapolis, Maryland. He sued the company because he said that the company falsified the profitability of the store. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you is simply because of this. I visited a lot of folks who purchase franchise opportunities, and franchise opportunities can be great, but a lot of the stores that I visited, a lot of those folks look like they bought a job. So my thing to you is, if you're looking at a franchise opportunity, especially one that was going to cost you, upwards of a $200,000 with the build out and everything like that, make sure that it could be a profitable situation for you, because I know a lot of folks, when I went and visited a lot of these different stores, they had nice facilities, but they didn't have any customers in the store. Number one. Number two, they took a lot of monies that they're basically their retirement savings to buy these stores. And when you're in a franchise opportunity, you pretty much locked in for about 15 years with the franchise, and then you also have to pretty much do a long-term lease to purchase the property. So just slow your roll on that. Really think about that. Pray about that situation. Luckily for me, the building that I was going to put my franchise in, I own the property. So that's another thing too. If you're going to do a franchise, I highly suggest that you own the property that you're going to do the franchise in. So when that franchise situation had that cease and desist order placed against them, I had a couple of choices. I could either let them hold on to my $30,000, or they can give me my $30,000 back until that cease and desist was lifted. So I got the $30,000 back, and I still had the building. So instead of opening up a coffee beanery, I just opened up a store called John's Place. So it was like a mini Starbucks type thing. It wasn't really no heavy foods, but we had a lot of drinks, pretty much like Starbucks, some sandwiches and things like that. Unfortunately, my sister-in-law didn't run it, and I had a lot of family members and friends working for me, which I don't think is a great idea. So think about that too, if you're going to have your family and friends working for you. Let me know if I'm going over, Dr. O. Am I good?
Yeah, we are right on time. So
okay.
Right.
Okay.
But I did like the spread of the counsel. Let me call this now counseling, because it's more like a counseling session. Talking about real estate and how to start financial services, and also the tail end of your discussion, you were talking about franchise with some really wisdom tips that you're really giving us. Now, for the real estate, you mentioned the 250 real estate license. Now, is that what does that entail? What does it take for you to get that license? Is it just meet some couple of us?
Right. Yeah. In the state of Maryland, you need 60 hours of continuing education. So you could either do that, by taking the class online, and you can complete the modules at your own leisure, or you can, go in person and take the class. Normally, you have two choices. You could either do maybe like 7 Saturdays from like 9 to 5 or 8 to 4:30, something like that. Or you can do like 2 evenings from like 6 to 10, normally like on a Monday and a Wednesday, or a Monday and a Thursday, something like that. But generally speaking, you're looking at roughly about 7 weeks to complete if you're doing it in person. If you're doing it online, then you can pretty much knock it out as long as you get the 60 hours in. Once you complete the 60 hours of education, then you can, apply to take the exam. I would highly recommend anybody who's thinking about real estate, even if they don't really want to sell to anybody else. I mean, if anything, if you plan on buying a house, or your personal house, or you plan on, selling your house, you save a lot of money that way that you don't have to pay to a real estate agent. So, I mean, it's just common sense stuff like that that's really benefited me over the years. I mean, being able to do my own auto insurance, being able to do my own life insurance, all of those different things that I have to pay a premium for. If I'm licensed, why not do it myself? And that way I get the residual income. So it's a savings. So my thing is always trying to bring money back into the household. We constantly kicking out, we constantly kicking out. What can I do to bring money back in? That's the thing for me. So I just try to think of basic principles that anybody can use, even if they don't want to help the majority of the people, because at the end of the day, if you're helping everybody else but not helping yourself, I mean, what good is it? So You know, I just believe in constantly educating myself, learning different things, learning, you know, what products and services are good, and applying that stuff to myself. And if I know it works for me, I know it's going to work for other people.
Okay, nice. Okay, let me give opportunity to people to ask questions and to give comments. So go ahead. I see Minister Soji, Minister Fred. I see, of course, Andrea online. You guys go ahead if you have any question or comment.
Hello. My question is, so you also mentioned about financial services. Now, what are some, I guess, tips if you were, you know, interested in kind of learning about, you know, that arena? How to go about that?
Well, let me just say this. I started learning about financial services when I was 27 years old. Even though I went to school for business, I didn't know business and I was broke. I owed everybody, you know. When I finished grad school, I think I had 27 credit cards and I owed everybody. You know, they was calling the house about collections for the car. So I was in really bad shape when I graduated from grad school. But I worked extremely hard. I learned a lot. And I don't know about you, but, you know, I'm like the responsible one in my family. So, you know, if something happens to a family member, you know, a lot of times people look at me, you know. So even at 27, I did a long-term care policy for my parents. You know, I helped a lot of people out over the years, especially early on, helping folks with evictions, drug treatments, and all of that type of stuff. And I learned one thing my pastor told me a long time ago. I was really stressed out. I was helping all these people, and I didn't even have any kids, family members and friends and all that type of stuff. And my pastor told me, he said, you know, who told you to do God's job? So when I learned that, you know, I just said, okay, well, what I will do is I'll just make sure that I put certain things in place for my immediate family. So if something happens, I know that they're covered. So I learned a lot of things, not only to help myself, but also help my immediate family members and friends. That way I know that they're protected. So they don't have to be doing these GoFundMe accounts and this and that and so on and so forth, you know, if something happens. And then I also believe in, you know, leaving an inheritance as well. So I just learned a lot of basic concepts, even on the insurance side. It's not expensive to do that either. I mean, when I say insurance, I'm not just talking about life insurance. And then also they do have products specifically as when we talk about life insurance, they do have products where they have what you call living benefits. So everything is not all about when you die. You know, you want to have benefits that you can use while you're still living. Case in point, I had a heart attack in 2009. So had I had the right type of policy at the time, I didn't. But if I had what you call a index universal life policy, I could have used about $50,000 of that policy to help me with medical expenses and other things that I need to, you know, help me get through that time. Because a lot of times if somebody have a health challenge, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to dip into their savings or dip into their 401k or whatever the case might be to get through that hurdle if they have it. But some people may not have it. And even if they do have those type of things, if you get sick or, you know, you come down with some type of chronic illness or whatever the case might be, you don't always dip into your resources, especially if you know, plan on using that for retirement. So to get a life insurance license, you know, you're only talking about maybe what, about $80. You can get a life insurance license in probably about 2 weeks. And not only will that allow you to do life insurance, but allow you to do annuities too. So I think that's a great source of income as well if somebody think they might want to do that. Because, you know, if you know somebody who accumulated, say, 250, 300 or whatever monies that they accumulated that they're going to use for retirement, normally what I do is I put that into like an annuity for them, but that's pretty much guaranteed lifetime income. And I mean, it pays well. You know, I'm talking like $15,000, $20,000. So you do 3 or 4 of those a year. I mean, that could pretty much replace your income.
Thank you.
All right.
I hope I answered your question.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Concerning the life insurance license. Now, when you have that license, does that mean I don't really understand how it works, but you know, there's a lot of life insurance companies out there. Now, if you have that license, does it mean you can, you know, write an insurance on behalf of some of these companies, or how
Yes. So
does it
you
work?
have two types. You have some people, they're captive agents. So when I say captive agent, that means that you're working for a company. You might be working for, say, Allstate, Transamerica, or one of those companies. That you're a captive agent. So you're working exclusively for them. I'm not a captive agent. So basically I'm a broker. So I can market a lot of different companies' products. So I'm independent. So I don't have to work for, because the good thing about what I do is that I can help everybody. As long as you're not, at a nursing home, in the bed at a nursing home, I can pretty much help you. So sometimes if you're a captive agent, you may not be able to help certain people if they have certain medical conditions or whatever the case might be. So you spent a lot of time and you wasn't able to help that person. But, because of what I do with all of the different carriers that I have, I can pretty much help just about everybody. Now, you may not necessarily be able to get a very large policy if you have some serious chronic, illnesses. But at the same time, we do have some carriers that allow you to do a policy and you don't have to do any medical questions. So that's another great source of part-time income, or, dipping your toe into it until you might want to do it, full time. These are, real life things that can bring in some real life income that can pay some real life bills in a real life short period of time. So you don't have to do it, spend 2 years to get a graduate degree or 4 years for an undergraduate degree. You can pretty much, get some of these licenses and you can be ready to rock and roll in a matter of weeks, especially on the financial services side. And it's not very expensive to do it. So, now let me just say this, because a lot of folks have licenses and stuff like that. So I don't want to make light and just say, okay, well, you could make all of this money just by having the licenses. One thing that I will say is this: you have to hang around people that's doing great business. If you hang around a lot of folks that's not really doing much, I don't care what you're doing, then you're going to pretty much wind up being in the same situation. So even the fact that I'm doing well, I still partner with people that's doing better than me, because at the end of the day, if I'm trying to get to the next level, I have to be around people that's at the next level. So sometimes, even though you might know a lot, sometimes you just got to humble yourself and you just got to put yourself in position where, I'm going to learn from folks that's doing better than me. And that's pretty much what I believe in. I'm not going to continuously, hang around and around people that's not doing as well, that have the same licenses I have. I need to be around folks that's, doing better. And as a result of that, you're going to do better.
Yeah. Okay. Minister Soji.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Watson.
Thank you.
You briefly mentioned annuity. Can you shed more light on annuity? Because during the week, I have somebody talking about annuity as an income or something, but I don't really grab the what annuity is. So can you shed light on annuity?
Okay. Sure. Okay. An annuity is basically a life insurance product. Okay. Because the annuity, basically what the life insurance carrier does is that they're going to guarantee that you're going to get lifetime income. So I'm not going to get, too technical with you guys, but basically it's just like a person, and I know this is a church and everything, but you have about some people that hit the lottery and they won like $5 million or whatever the case might be. Instead of them taking all of the money at one time, they do like a monthly payout. It's still backed up by an insurance carrier. So an annuity basically, so say for instance, if you accumulated, just say $300,000 that you had, while you're working, and you're about to retire, and you want to use that money as part of your income, to retire. So basically what the annuity will do is you will get what you call a fixed annuity, meaning that the annuity is not, technically you're not going to take the losses in the stock market if you're doing what you call a fixed annuity. And basically what it's going to do is it might pay you based on your age when you plan on taking the money out. You might wind up, getting off of 300,000. You may get a payout, maybe like say $2,000 a month, for the rest of your life. Even if you pass away, your children or your spouse or whatever the case might be, they can continue to get the income even though you passed away. So the annuity is just basically it's a retirement type product where it allows you to constantly get monthly income. And you could do it to the point where you could do what you call a 20-year period certain, which means that you guaranteed to get a certain amount for 20 years. Even if you live for 10 years, your family will get the monies, for the additional 10 years. So You have two types of annuities, though. You have what you call fixed annuities. Those are the ones that I focus on these days because, you know, I deal with an aging population, and aging population, a lot of them don't want to take risk, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, they don't want to work another 10, 15 years. You know, a lot of the folks, they like, okay, well, I'm looking at retiring next year, 3 years or 5 years. So, you know, they don't want to take the big hit. So if the stock market is at 15% profit, you know, they might get maybe 8%, but at the same time, you know, they're not going to lose money. So I do a lot of fixed annuity products these days because a lot of folks just don't want to take those big risks. Did I answer your question?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other question or comment? All right. Now I'm gonna tie in franchise, because I remember there was a time when some people were trying to you know, kind of bring me into a franchise, some of these insurance franchise. I mean, what's it called? State Farm. State Farm has a franchise set up for, for now. Is that a way to go? I know you mentioned a little bit about franchise, the things we need to look for. Will you advise that that's a good way to go?
Well, I mean, I know some folks who actually own their own Allstate franchise. I know several people who don't own their own Allstate franchise. I mean, this is the deal. You're basically what you call buying a book of business. So when you buy a book of business, that just means that you're going to continuously get the income from those policies. So, but at the same time, if you're buying a book of business, basically what that means is that you're going to have to get yourself an office. You're going to have to probably staff that office and all of that type of stuff. So at the end of the day, you really have to ask yourself, is it worth making that investment into the business? And then if you're going to net what you think you want to net in order to get the money, to get the return that you want. Am I making any sense? Because that's all you're doing. I mean, like for me, I'll give you an example. I have my property and casualty license. I don't have time to work with a lot of the property and casualty people. So what I did was I just did a contract with the broker. So basically with that contract with the broker, I get 25% commissions from all of the business that I give them, but I don't have to deal with the day-to-day expenses. I don't have to worry about people calling me wanting quotes and all that type of stuff, because some of that stuff can be very time consuming. So you got to really be careful about, you know, what you do, because when you quote these people about the information, you know, you got to spend time on the computer and all of that type of stuff. And, you know, some people that have these different companies, they wanted me to do some stuff with them. But like I said, for me, I'm independent. I don't have time to be sitting in somebody's office or whatever the case might be. I'd rather just be able to just do what I want to do when I want to do it, you know? So if you want to, you know, invest the monies into that franchise, I think that's a good opportunity. But at the same time, you got to really see, okay, well, how much am I going to really make, you know, once I pay all of my expenses, once I pay salaries and all of that type of stuff, is it really worth it? That's what you got to really ask yourself, because you could pretty much do the same thing as an independent and not really have all of that overhead. And then also with now let me just say that, like with the state farms and the Allstates, they primarily focus on property and casualty. They don't do a lot on a life insurance side, even though life insurance generally pay more, life insurance and annuities. But you know, it's just basically buying a book of business. And as a result of buying that book of business, you just have to have a brick and mortar facility, and it's a turnkey situation. So with any type of franchise, whether it's a financial services franchise, whether it's a restaurant or whatever the case might be, keep in mind that, you know, before you get paid, the franchise is going to get paid. So they automatically have your checking account information and everything like that. They're going to automatically take their 10 or 15% profits each and every week. Then, you know, you got to make sure that, you know, you're doing a long-term lease with a building. So yeah, and then you got to think about your competition as well, because a lot of those franchises, I'll use the Allstate for example. I mean, I know I would see an Allstate franchise. It's like 5 of them within a 8-block radius almost, you know. So you just got to be, or Dunkin' Donuts, you know, it's like every, you know, I was counting some of the Dunkin' Donuts not too far from where I live. It's like 7 of them within a relatively short distance. So you got to think about your competition. You got to think about your overhead and all of that type of stuff. So at the end of the day, what am I going to net from having all of this stuff? Is it worth it having a brick and mortar facility, or is it something I could just do from home? You can, have some other folks do some of the lead work, and then you just get your cut.
Okay. Okay, Andre, you go ahead.
Yeah, I have another quick question. If you could leave one advice with an aspiring entrepreneur, what would it be?
Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. I mean, I'm just going to be upfront with you. I mean, you're going to have to really put some serious, blood, sweat, and tears into it. But you're going to have to stay the course. You're going to have to be, persistent. You're going to have to be consistent, and it might take a while. You may not come out the gate swinging. It might take some time. Some people believe that in order for you to have success, you pretty much just have to hit rock bottom. I don't really believe that. You can have some success without messing up your credit, without losing your house, and this and that, and so on and so forth. But I think you just have to have a strategy, and always just focus on worst case scenario. I think a lot of times when we do stuff, we do it just based on sheer excitement. It's good to be excited, but at the same time, you have to, use a little bit of common sense. Make sure that you might have maybe 3 to 6 months worth of money saved, because you will, have to pay a lot of bills. I mean, bills don't take a vacation. Let me say that again. Bills don't take a vacation. So, so the thing is that, just make sure that, you know why you're doing it. I mean, it's one thing to do stuff based off of excitement. I know a lot of folks that buy real estate and they just excited about buying the real estate, but they don't even have a plan how they're going to rent it, how they're going to flip it. They don't even have a plan. But guess what? That bill starts as soon as you sign on the dotted line. So even though you might not have a tenant, even though the plates may not be fixed up, you're still paying a water bill. In some cases, you might not even have pipes in the house, but you're still paying a water bill. You're still paying taxes and things like that. So just make sure you have a plan, work the plan, stick with the plan. And just remember that it's not going to be easy. It's going to be some days where, you're going to work, early in the morning, and you might only get a break, maybe 10 or 15 minutes between, within a, 8-hour span or whatever the case might be. But it's very rewarding at the end of the day. So just don't think that it's going to be a cakewalk. And if it is a cakewalk for you, God bless you. But I mean, it's a grind, but it gets better over time. And just make sure that you treat people the way you want to be treated, and just make sure that you do the right thing by people, because you can help 99 people, but that one person that had a bad experience, it's like they'll tell 1 million people. So yeah, just make sure that you try to do the right thing, be customer service friendly, and just know why you're doing it. And just put together a plan, and don't be so in a hurry to spend all of your money. Do your research, see if you can find some folks that can give you some good advice. And then you're going to have some naysayers. I mean, sometimes your own family and friends may not be in your corner. I'm just going to let you know that right up front. Everybody that's smiling in your face doesn't necessarily mean that they want to see you do well. And then just hang around positive people that's getting it done. Because you're going to hear some folks, they're going to say, well, yeah, I tried it. It didn't work, this, that, and so on and so forth. That doesn't mean that it's not going to work for you. So, so I would just say stay the course, know why you're doing it, and just know that you're going to put in some hard work, and it's going to probably get worse before it gets better. But at the end of the day, you keep sowing the seed, the harvest will come. Let me say that one more time. I don't think you heard what I said. I said, you keep sowing that seed, the harvest will come.
Amen.
So, the birds going to come get some of the seeds. I promise you that. But at the end of the day, you just stay diligent, you stay prayed up, stay focused. What's coming to you, you will get.
You will get.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love that. Now you hit it again. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. So the way I'm seeing it, entrepreneurship is like any other calling in life, like engineer, a doctor, a nurse. Not everybody is called to be a nurse.
Right.
You've got to know that that is what pulls you. That is your passion. That is what you like to do. So, but there is, I'll call an extreme attention by some people. You see it every day, on ads, on social media, on TV. Oh, come learn how to drop your 9 to 5 job and come join me. And you see people that are they don't even have the passion. Some of the things you describe about some of your experiences as an entrepreneur, they don't even have that. And they want to jump ship from regular jobs to, entrepreneurship. And that is why you find some people failing. They put in a lot of money, thousands of dollars into it, and yet the business never, kicks off because of some fundamental things that are missing. For me, I think it is a calling. Entrepreneurship is a calling. Just like any other calling in life, you've got to know that you are drawn to it, not just because, it's the in thing. That is what is raining. We all need to do it. No, you might not be called to that. So how do you, I know we have kids, we have the younger generation. How do we kind of teach them, what are the things we want to let them look out for? What are the signs that, you're going to be a good entrepreneur?
Well, I think one of the things is that you just have to have a strong work ethic. You either want to work or you don't. Some folks, they want things to be handed to them. And I always look for a person that really seem that they really want to work. They're not really, you don't have to push them to do stuff. They're willing to take initiative to do things on their own. I think, with social media and all of these other platforms, social media is good and social media is bad sometimes because some people, they do all this advertising like, they are, rock stars and this and that and so on and so forth. And then, people hype stuff up and some people just try to make certain things, appear that is really, really easy and simple. But, once you really, invest your money and you start looking into it, then all of a sudden it's like, it's not what you thought it is, it's not what you thought it was. So, just like you said, entrepreneurship is a calling, just like a work ethic. You either have the work ethic or you don't have it. And that was one of the reasons why I mentioned earlier, when I was in college, I could have stayed, working for the federal government, but I just was around a bunch of people. Yeah, they had, high ranking positions and, GS this, GS that. They were making really good money, but that environment just wasn't good for me. I can't just sit around and do nothing and collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
So, so at the end of the day,
you tidbits, your wisdom, your understanding of the business landscape, and also the ability to become an entrepreneur. And we really would love to see you some other time on this platform, and then we'll talk some about some other things. Maybe that time talk about your ministerial issues and all that. But,
well, let me just say this too. I mean, for anybody that's on the call, if they're looking to, get involved, in real estate or even on the financial services side, we definitely, have room for you, because I mean, we're constantly growing, we constantly have business, and I definitely can't handle it all. The team is growing.
You're on mute again, so we can't hear.
Okay.
I think I had a call coming in, so that's stop. Did you hear what I said?
No, we did not.
No.
Sorry, no. I was
saying
not. Is that for anybody that's on the call, if you think you might want to do real estate or financial services for that matter, I'll be more than happy to help. I mean, the business is there. I had to stop another call again. My rings constantly, but I'm sorry about that. But at any rate, if you guys want some assistance in real estate or financial services, whether to learn how to do these things, or you want to, either buy, sell, or, learn, how, some of these different financial services products can help you, let me know. I'd be more than happy to help in any way I can.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's really good. So we would, of course, I'm going to reaching out to you. So people that want to have your contacts, they can have that also. So thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank people that were on call, Mr. SOJ, Fred, Andrea, Charlie Johnson. I don't know who that is, but we're happy.
My assistant.
Oh, okay, fine. That's nice. So thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you sometime in future again. So it's gonna be all for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.